Hello everyone, good morning. A very good morning to you all. So, a very first confirmation what I want from you guys is are we audible clearly? Just let me know in the chat that are we audible clearly to you guys. Just waiting for your confirmation, guys, that are we audible clearly to you? Yes. Okay. Hi guys. So, good morning. I'm Harshraj. I am working as an head of operations over here in Let's Upgrade. So today we have a guest lecture for you, arranged for you. We have Raghav Nayapati with us. He's an amazing person. So sorry, today the guest section will be on more related towards RPA topics, robotic process automation topics. So he's currently working as head of automation head of automation. So he in the AGS Technologies. Sorry. So yes, today he'll be delivering the topics for you. He's here for 40 minutes, guys. Ask all your doubts, all your questions to him, and we'll be here. So okay, guys. Sir, I'll hand it over to you. We'll be going forward with the session.
Yeah, thank you, Harshraj, and thank you, Let's Upgrade, for providing this opportunity. So I'm really honored and feel delighted to talk to all of you and to share my experiences, which have over the period of 2 decades, have spent in my career in IT industry, and I have spent in building and developing automation products like business process management, robotic process automation, and AI products. So currently, I'm the product head for ASG Technologies, where I'm leading the RPA hyper automation products. So today's session is more interactive. So I'll give a brief overview of these automation technologies, how it emerged, and followed by examples of what is hyper automation, and then followed up by your Q&A. So you can stop me anytime, or you can pause me if you want, and then I can answer any questions. So it is more about you and to understand this entire landscape. Okay, so let's start. Let me share my screen. So this is about me. As I told, I have around 2 decades of experience in automation products, and currently I am the product head for automation in ASG Technologies, where I'm leading the RPA, AI, and hyper automation products. So we'll start with what is automation, where all it started, why it is needed, and then we'll move towards RPA. So I think some of you are also learning RPA, so it will be good for you to understand what is RPA and what are the different tools and technologies which are used in building RPA products. And then we'll move beyond RPA. So why there is a need to go beyond RPA, which is hyper automation. And then what are the use cases, followed by Q&A. So let's start. So I always start my presentations or my seminars with this famous quote by Mr. Ray Kurzweil. He is the futurist and technologist who has been there for more than 3 to 4 decades. And what he says is, we as humans, we have built these machines, these technologies, and we should not be afraid of these technologies. We should use these technologies, tools, and automations to augment and help us wherever needed. And that's what we'll see in this session, how these tools and technologies are helping us in our day-to-day lives. So with that, let's start with some humor. So this is going to be a reality soon, right? So this is now no longer a myth. So this is going to be a reality, because as you can see here, there are only few people in the office which is having more robots, right? So this is what we are going to talk about today. Where do we need to deploy bots? Where do we need to deploy automations or AI algorithms? And versus where do we need humans? So mostly humans will be used wherever we need some judgment, right? Where we are good at, humans are good at judgment, we are good at humor, we are good at emotions. So all these are where we require humans, but rest all tasks or jobs can be automated or can be delegated to the bots, right? So here Mr. Jenkins is required only to cheat on the taxes, right? Which is not something which a bot can do, because bot or AI machine can understand only few instructions and it can do accordingly. So with that, let's move on. So this is the state of normal. So as we all have been into this pandemic situation from last 1 year, and we understand that this is becoming normal, right? So this situation with COVID, where we have companies are going through a lot of revenue pressures and they are having drop of income, there is a job loss. So all this is pushing these companies to rethink the way they have built in the past, right? So consider the age-old companies which are in manufacturing or who are doing some grocery stores, so pop and mom stores. So all these stores or all these companies or organizations, they need to rethink the way they have grown over the period of time, and in this situation how they adopt to these new technologies, right, and digitize themselves so that they can move ahead and also embrace them, so that they are not left behind in this situation. And as we see right now, currently in this situation, 40% of the people are researching more on the brand and product before buying, right? So we have become more cautious before buying anything or before spending anything, because there are a lot of job losses, there are a lot of pressure which is having on us to sustain whatever we have. Then we are also changing to less expensive products rather than buying something lavish, because we know that in this situation we can't go out, we can't do lead a normal life, so we are spending less. And also we are being cautious, right, where we are spending, where exactly we are spending. So that's why this is very important for us or for organizations to understand where to spend, how to grow their revenues in the current situation which we have. And automation has become pervasive, guys, and it is the new normal. So I would like to say that, right? So now let's see how or where the automation need has arisen. So automation, as you understand, is anything which is a technology, right, is which is helping us to elevate our pain points as human. So it started with the industrial era, where we had pioneers like Carl Benz and Henry Ford, right, in the industrial era in 18th or 19th centuries, where they found out assembly line, so which helped the humans to be supported by machines. So there were machines which were brought into the manufacturing assembly lines, and there were tasks which were divided into assembly lines, and they were all manufacturing and doing the mass productions using the machines. So in the industrial area, machines supported humans. So humans, they were doing laborious tasks, it supported humans. Then in around 1980s or 1990s, we saw the internet era, where tech companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they all flourished in Silicon Valley, and they gave us this beautiful thing called internet, right? So with internet, we got empowered. So we came into an information age where everything was there in front of us. So we don't have to go out much. Everything was there in front of us in our laptops or in our desktops at that time, and we could navigate this internet and get lot of benefits out of it, right? So we could research on topics, we could navigate to different places, and we can start. We also, when Amazon started in 90s, we could also start buying products online. So this started the internet era. Right now, in the late 90s or 2000s, we are in the digital era, where everything is there at our fingertips. So we are all surrounded with the machines. Like we start our day. I start my day with Alexa telling me about the current weather, the news, and then I drive into a car where I have Alexa and Siri, which are plugged into my navigation system, which tells me the direction, and I log into my office, where my Cortana wakes me up every time I have a new meeting scheduled. So I don't need any person to do my scheduling or do be an assistant, right? All these machines are augmenting me, and more than me, it is doing for my daughter as well. So I have a 8 years old kid who wakes up every day with Alexa asking whether it's going to rain today or not, and she's happy if it rains because she doesn't have to go to school, right? So more than us, our kids, new generation is where they're all surrounded by these machines and tablets and gadgets, and all these are powered by data, right? And this is all enabled with data processing and algorithms and automation. That's where we are in the digital era. So in this slide, what you can understand is we have to move towards digital era, and all the companies needs to move towards the digital automation space, and that is the need for automation. So let's look at the journey of automation. So as I was telling, in early 90s, when I started my career, so we all started with a technology called business process automation or business process management. So what this technology does is it automates the processes in your organization. So consider in your organization like banks or insurance companies, they have lot of processes which are lying down in papers, right? So they have documented some process in a paper, or they have documented something on a whiteboard, but nothing is documented in a system. So what this causes a problem is, because the process is not documented or not automated, it remains in one person's brain or one person's document, right? It is not shared across the team. So suppose somebody wants to change something in the claims process, he cannot do that in org wide, because these are all lying in the silos. So that's where we introduced something called business process automation or business process management, which helped us to streamline these processes across different organization units. So whatever a legal is doing is aware, HR is aware of that, right? So all these are connected. So we are connecting the dots through this business process automation tools such as Pega and Appian and IBM workflows. These enable us to create these workflows and end-to-end automations. Then they introduce something called decisions or business rules, which act on the policies of the company, and they help us to determine, suppose a loan can be given to a person or not, right? So if these are all if then else conditions which help us to determine the business rules. For example, whether this person is a fraudulent or not, or what is the credit score of this person, whether we can apply or we can approve a loan or not, right? So all these are decisions. Then we have integrations, we have APIs which helped us to connect to different systems. So consider you have a backend systems, like you have legacy applications in many organizations like mainframe and CRM and SAP. With APIs, we are able to connect to these backend systems. Then we have macros and scripts, so which are also small automation. So I hope you all would have worked on macros, right, in Excel, or some small JavaScript. So all these are automations. Why I call that them automation is these are also helping us to do something more faster and more simpler, right? So if you create a macro and you leave it, tomorrow the macro you can run automatically, and that will do magic for you. So in 90s and 2000s, it all started with these technologies. Then in late 2000s, 2013-14, we saw an emergence of technology called RPA. So RPA is nothing but robotic process automation, which helps the organizations to create software bots. These are not physical bots, these are like software bots which you deploy to your laptops or to your virtual machines. And these bots will act on top of your existing applications, and they will do some simple tasks like open up an Excel file and enter some data, open up a website, enter some data, or scrape some data, and also take it and input into a Excel or a Word document, or navigate to your mainframe and input some data, right? So all these back and forth tasks, which as human we used to do in our days, they were automated by these bots. And why we are doing this? Because all these tasks are monotonous, repetitive. So consider you are in a bank, and I come from a banking background. So all the front office agents, they are getting really frustrated because so I'll give a scenario. Consider 8 hours a day, their only job is to scan through the bank's website and see whether somebody has applied for any loan or any credit card, and scrape the data and put it in an Excel file and do some logic there, and then log into a mainframe application and manually input, right? So, and then take the data from mainframe, put it back into the Excel, and send an email. So consider a person is doing this for 8 hours a day, right? How boring this job is. So that's where RPA market taps into this kind of requirements, where all these structured tasks of a human can be mimicked by a bot, right? So bot can take over these tasks, and bot can help and augment in these tasks, and humans can be relieved from these repetitive tasks so that they can do something more intelligent or more beneficial for them. And I'll talk more about that. So that is what is RPA. We are creating a digital labor arbitrage. So what do we mean by that is, along with humans, as we saw in the initial slide, right, on the in the humor slide, along with the humans we'll have bots. and these bots are delegated to all these repetitive tasks, and humans are doing something more sophisticated like approvals or exception handling. Now we are in this era where we have RPA, which is the top emerging technologies, and we are moving towards something called intelligent automation. So RPA is not exactly an intelligent automation; it is a rule-based automation. So whatever you tell a bot to do, it would do, but it doesn't have any inherent intelligence in it. So that's why we are moving towards artificial intelligence, where we are building intelligence to these bots or to these machines. So we have algorithms and like machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, NLP. All these technologies are helping us to building this intelligence to these bots, which help us to do self-learning and to help us to do some semi-structured and unstructured data processing, right? So we are ultimately building intelligent machines, and all these coming together is what we call hyper automation. So hyper automation is nothing but it is a mixture, or it is a compilation of all these technologies together to build a platform or a landscape which helps us into end-to-end digital automation, and we'll talk more about that. So this is what is the automation journey, and we'll talk how we are moving from RPA towards the artificial intelligence. So now let's look at RPA. I think most of you are aware of what is RPA. So as I was telling, RPA is a software bot which helps us to mimic, emulate, and automate human tasks. Right. So consider I am opening up an Excel every day, and I want to scan through thousands of records and create a chart, and then compile an email and send or attach that chart. Right. So that is my day-to-day job. Or consider my day-to-day job is log into Amazon.com and extract the product reviews from the website, put it in an Excel file, generate some pivots or reports, and send it to my management. Or consider my job is to process multiple emails, bulk emails from a subject, from a body, and then store it in a folder, and then uh, create a folder of such files and process the files one by one, and update into a mainframe application or a database. So all these are our day-to-day tasks, right? We live or we do a job for this task. Now what we are saying is have a bot to emulate these tasks or mimic these tasks, and you just be there alongside with the bot for any exceptions or for any approvals, right? So that is what we are saying. It emulates the human actions. It operates on any user application, right? So it can be your Microsoft Office applications, it can be a web application, it can be an email, it can be your SAP, any application, right, which has an user interface. And also it processes the structured document formats, right? Structured formats, and then works continuously. A bot never sleeps. It works for 24/7, 365 days, and provides high accuracy. So this is very important for when you are working for a banking or a highly regulatory industry like banking and insurance, where you are being tortured by your auditors or by your regulators, right? Saying that I want all these tasks to be accurate, to be compliant. So these bots or these technologies help us to adhere to those norms. So now let's look at the need, right? So how the market is growing. So as you can see, the market for RPA is growing at a compounded annual growth rate of 41%, which is more than 2 billion market size. And by 2022, it will reach by 3 billion, right? And in 2020, we have seen most of the organizations, due to this new normal scenario, right, due to COVID, thanks to that, right, where we had all these automation companies coming together and automating more and more human tasks. So I'll give you few examples also. And what are the types of automation, right? So as I was talking, RPA can start with simple Windows application. So you want to automate any of your Excel, Word, or PDF, any document. So you can do that with RPA. Move towards sophisticated emails, read emails, sending emails, or log into a web page where you can read data from a web page, or you can enter data into a web form. So consider, I'll give you again a front office example where front office agent is given a task to change address. Suppose when you call HDFC or ICICI, you place a request saying that you want to change your address, right? So what happens is behind the scene, the person will pick up the phone and keep you on hold, and then you would be typing into a screen to change your address. And consider he or she is doing this for thousands of applications every day, right? So he will get frustrated. Now you have a bot doing this. Instead of a person doing this, the person delegates to a bot. What the person would do is, he receives your call, he or she, and he would say, start my address change bot. He will click on a button. So in that, with the press of that button, the bot would log into that bank's website, and the bot would start entering these details like your name, your address, new address, old address, phone number, submit the application. The bot would also compile an email, send it to you, and then once you receive an email, then you thank the agent, right? You give excellent feedback to the agent, and the agent becomes happy, even though he or she has not done the job, right? The bot did that for that, and the agent would in turn thank the bot for doing this boring job for him or her, right? So this is the reality we are in. Same thing, you want to get some data from your SAP application, right? So in the finance industry, all the data, like invoice processing or your account reconciliation, everything gets posted into SAP. So bot can interact with these applications also, right? SAP, Oracle, mainframe, without building APIs, right? You don't need to build any integrations with the bot. It simply interacts with the user interface. As long as you have an user interface, the bot would mimic that user interface, and in a non-intrusive fashion, it would enter the data as if a human is doing that, right? So you have to build that bot script where the bot would do this for you. And as I said, the bot works for 24/7 by 365 days. And if a bot, there are many technologies where the people are doing a bot scaling or bot node health kind of a mechanism, where if one bot fails, then another bot picks up the job, right? Wherever the bot has failed. That we can't do as humans, because we work for 8 hours a day. That too, in between those 8 hours, we take around 2 to 3 hours breaks. We take 5 coffee breaks and then 3 lunch breaks or snacks breaks. So together we efficiently work for 5 to 6 hours, right? But it's not with the bot. So bot would never take a coffee or tea break, right? So bot would work continuously, and it would do your job whatever you have delegated, unless if something goes wrong with the bot, then you have a bot scaling mechanism where another bot picks up and it starts doing the job where the other bot has left. So this is what is the reality, and I have built some RPA products which work on such mechanism, right? Now, so whenever I say how this entire architecture of an RPA looks like, right? So the products which I have built, they work on these architectures. So the first is your studio or the designer, right? So this is where you have your RPA designers or business analysts or citizen developers. They build these RPA bots. So what happens is, you are given with similar to your Visual Studio, right? You are given with a drag and drop technology where you can drag and drop these bot actions. So suppose you want to open up an application, so you are given up a activity which says drag Windows desktop application. Then you say drag your web automation. Then you connect like a workflow, and then you enter some properties saying that navigate to www.google.com, click on this button. So all these are, you are entering those parameters, you are configuring, you are not doing any coding here, right? So there is, it's entirely low code, no code platforms which are available in the market now, where you simply drag and drop and just mention the instructions. Log into this website, open up this application, navigate to this email, or navigate to this folder. You just put some instructions. That is what you do in your studio, right? Where you build your bots, you create your bots, you design your bots. So once your bots are built or created, then what you do is you deploy those bots into various machines through something called bot central or bot orchestrator, right? So this is the central processing unit of any RPA tool. Any RPA tool you can take, Automation Anywhere, UiPath, or even our ASG's Zenith RPA tool, right? Any RPA tool have this central processing unit called bot central or bot orchestrator, and this would help you to deploy various bots. So once you have built 10 bots, you want to deploy into 5 machines. So this is a place where you log in and you say that these 5 bots I need to run into these different user machines, and next 5 bots I need to run into different virtual machine. So in Bot Central, what you do is you map these bots into various machines, And also there is a scheduling feature, so you can schedule these bots. So suppose you want to like a cron jobs, right, or like your backend jobs, you want to run these bots. Suppose you have an Excel bot and you want to run this Excel bot which reads from a web page and posts to an SAP every night at 10 p.m. So you can schedule that with the bot central. You can say that, hey, bot scheduler, run this Excel automation bot every night 10 p.m. and every Friday, for example, right? Then you have another bot which reads from a mainframe application and then sends the data to a user. You can say that you want to run this bot every Sunday morning so that these jobs are run and then users are getting email notifications on Monday morning, something like that, right? So all these can be configured by your bot central. Then you have two different flavors of bot automations, and this is across your RPA market, right? You have something called an attended bot, something called unattended bot. I'll talk more about that. And then all these bots are deployed in these machines where these bots are automatically executed. So whatever product you are in or whatever product you are building, this is the overall architecture, right? And now let's see what is an attended bot execution. So attended bot execution is where you are deploying these bots which you have built in a user's machine. So consider you have a front office agent again, right? Or a call center agent or a service agent who he or she would be needing this bot to every day to open up an Excel, enter some data and from a web page, and then manually update a database, right? So this bot is sitting in the business users machine, right? This is not scheduled. This is manually running in the user's machine where the bot is. So suppose you have 10 business users, so you deploy this bot in those 10 business users machine. Now in attended scenario, what happens is this human would manually trigger this bot. So whenever needed, suppose I log in at 8 a.m. every day, and then I look into my emails and they say, okay, now I need to trigger my bot. So now the agent would click on that bot and that bot would do its magic, generate the report and send it across. Now the human can take and work on the next items, right? So this is like augmenting. Bot is doing some job, human is doing some job, right? Remember that. This is called attended mode, where you are empowering the users to do alongside the bots, right? So similar, some examples like generating Excel charts, right, or macros or formulas. So every day you want to run this, what you do is you click on a bot, it will do this, then you pick up that Excel file and send it to your boss and you take the credit, right? That, okay, I am so fast, I have run this chart or created this macro within few seconds, and the boss would be happy and will be eligible for a promotion, right, or a hike. Now scraping from the web. So suppose your job is to scrape from the data from the web or extract the data from the web, and that is not a single website, maybe 10 different web pages. So consider a property website, right? So you log into Magic Bricks, you log into 99.com, any other property websites, and your job is to pull in the best property prices in Hyderabad or in Mumbai, right? And for Andheri or for some area where you need to scrape the data and put it in an Excel and compile and send it to your boss every day saying that this is the latest price, latest chart. Or consider another scenario where your job is to go to different stock market websites, NSE or BSE, and then scrape the data for a particular stock and then put it in an Excel file, compile a beautiful chart, and then send it to your boss, right? So all these tasks are delegated to a bot, and what is your job is in attended bot is you just come, log into your desktop and just click on a button, run bot, and the bot would do this for you and then send that result. Another is reading an email, right, and its data. Suppose you want to have a bot which reads a particular email, and then data needs to be stored somewhere in the folder. So all these we were empowering users with the bot execution, right? We are augmenting with the bot execution. So this is called attended. Next scenario is called unattended, where there is no human sitting behind a bot, alongside a bot, right? So these are all backend tasks where you schedule a bot through your bot orchestrator or bot scheduler, and then what happens is these bots are running automatically. As I told you an example where you want to update database records every night, right? So you have a unattended bot which sits on in your virtual machine. These are typically in different virtual machines, and you say that 10 a.m. every day this bot has to run and update the records, and you leisurely watch your Netflix or your Primes subscriptions, and after 10:30 you just get a notification in your WhatsApp or in your mobile saying that okay, bot successfully ran, all the 10,000 records in database are updated. You are happy, your organization is happy, and you don't have to work, right? So that is how this bot runs, this unattended bot. Sending multiple email notifications. Suppose your job is like every Sunday night, you have to send notifications to your users saying that tomorrow morning there is a new IPO which is going on, or a new stock which is coming up, which you need to invest, or a new insurance policy which is opening up, and you need to send to all your customers. Earlier, what used to happen is the person who used to sit on the weekend, the insurance agent or any agent, compile these emails manually and send, right, and he was frustrated, his family was frustrated, and he was frustrated with his job, and because there was no one to help. Now, with this automation, what the person could do is delegate this to a bot, and the bot would compile all these emails to maybe 10,000 or 20,000 users of that company. And Sunday night, you schedule this bot, and all these emails are sent automatically, right? So that is a scenario. Then performing back-end automation, like you want to update to a mainframe, SAP, CRM. Again, this can be updated using the unattended bot. So remember, with this unattended, we are doing end-to-end without any user intervention. These are all run automatically with a scheduled job without any user intervention. Now, with these two types of bot frameworks, now let's look at how do you determine what are the candidates for RPA, right? So as I told you, all the laborious, manual, mundane tasks, repetitive, are candidates for automation, right, or RPA. So in this example, it says extracting data from databases, routine decision making like processing insurance claims, or entering data into multiple documents, right, from one place to another, or reconciling between multiple invoices. Right, all these are candidates for your automation. And I'm coming up with a book where I'm going to explain all these frameworks, and also I post multiple blogs where you can read how these automation frameworks and how do you determine what are the candidates for automation, right? So this is important because consider you are working in an organization where you are given a task to determine, suppose you have 5 processes, and your boss tells you that hey, tell me which are the top candidates for automation, right? So how do you shortlist the use cases for automation? So these frameworks help you to do that. So and at a high level, this framework tells you that any tasks which is laborious, repetitive in nature, that is a candidate. Any task which has simple rules or logic, that is a candidate. Any task which is standardized, which is structured, right, which does not change much, is again a candidate for RPA. And also which is something a high fluctuated in task, right, where there are a lot of changes which are happening in your surrounding, and you are not able to keep up with the change. So then that is a candidate for automation, right? So this framework really helps you to shortlist and identify the use cases, which we will talk more. Now let's look at the typical RPA journey, right? I know most of you are also into RPA, and I'm not sure about all the roles which you play in your organization, but there are different roles where you can play in your RPA journey. The first one being a discovery, right? So this is where I told you, this is where your job is to identify the key automation candidates. So the process owner, so consider in a bank or an insurance, there is a process owner of a mortgage unit, or a retail unit, or a consumer unit, right? There are different business units in a bank. So all these units will have a process owner, and that process owner is a non-technical user, and that person's job is to define the process for that particular problem, right? For example, in banking, you have a mortgage loan processing where a customer applies for a loan, it goes through various approval cycles, review cycle, and then finally approve a loan, right? So suppose it is a 20-step process. So this defining this process is the job of a process owner, okay? And he's a non-technical, he's a kind of a business user. So this person owns this process, So if you go to a mortgage unit in any bank, this person owns this mortgage process and says that this is my process. Now this process is given to somebody like you or me, and we are automation specialists, right? Our job is to automate this process as much as possible, because without automation you are going to have delays, you are going to have inaccuracies and lot of errors. So when it given to us, your job is to determine which steps in this process can be automated, right? So that is what is your job as a business analyst or citizen developer, where you determine which steps can be automated and how it can be automated in a tool. So that is where you build this automation using an RPA tool, right? As I was telling, you build an automation of, suppose, this mortgage process, where you define that first step, the bot has to log into this web page. Second step, it has to enter some data. Third step, it has to log into CBIL and perform some KYC. Fourth step, it has to get some data from CBIL and put it back into your application, do some validation with your database. Fifth step, it has to go to an approver, where they approve or reject. Sixth step, it will send an email, right? For example, there are 6 steps. So that steps, building these steps is your job or my job, where we build it in a tool, right? In an RPA tool. Now once you build this, then you deploy this, right, into a tool, and then you run this. So now you run it in a machine. So as I was telling, it can be run in an attended machine, which is a user's machine, or an unattended machine, where it is running in a virtual machine. Now when you run this, then only you will know whether this bot is running properly or not, right? So when you know, you get the results, either you will be happy saying that, okay, this bot has automated so many processes, or you will not be happy, because if the suppose the bot fails in between, then what you do is you again get yourself engaged, right, in this life cycle, and then you measure the performance of this automation and go back and rebuild it, or make some modification and again run it. So till the time you get your accuracy, or till the time you get your success, you keep on uh, moving through this journey or this life cycle, and then you deploy these bots multiple times, and then you have these bots running successfully, right? So this is a journey. Remember, any RPA product which you are using, this is a journey where you start with these steps, and you keep on measuring the performance and the output till the time you reach the accuracy of the bot or the automation. Okay, so remember, this is a journey of automation. Now let's look at some use cases. So I think I have given enough use cases, but let's look at some other use cases in different domains, like finance and accounting. So reconciliation is a classic use case, right? So suppose in finance and accounting, you are given with multiple invoice documents or multiple PDF documents, and you are told that you compare these documents and tell me where all the document has a mismatch. Another example, suppose you are given with a check and you are given with a loan application, right? And you are reconciling between these numbers which are entered into check versus the loan application. You're reconciling, and then you are generating a final document, and then generating it to a customer. So this can be delegated to a bot, where the bot can read from one document another document, compare it, compile it in a single document, generate it, and send it, right? So this is a classic use case in finance and accounting. In retail, you are responding to, suppose, some customer request, right? So customer is complaining about something, and you are not able to keep up with all this. So consider Amazon or Flipkart. Now in this Christmas season, they are flooded with lot of emails, a lot of requests about these shipments, right? And recently I had ordered something for my daughter, and it got delayed. Now it still, I have not arrived the package, and I have been continuously calling them, sending them emails, and they are not responding, because they are not able to keep up with the pace or the number of requests. Now if you have a bot, the bot would read these emails and scan these emails, and then be able to guide and respond automatically, right? So that is what can be applied in a retail industry. Then in HR, so in HR is a classic use case, where suppose you have onboarding requests. So suppose you are an organization where every 3 months you are having freshers joining into a company, right? So how do you keep up with the demand, and how do you streamline this HR onboarding process? So with RPA, what you can do is you can create a bot which would take in the initial request of employee logging in to the system, and then so what happens in a typical organization is the first day, right? You will be logging into a website, you will be entering some details, then you will be provisioned with your IT assets like laptop, headphones, whatever is required, and then you'll also be assigned a desk. Then also you'll be assigned a role and the work details, right? So imagine there is only one or two HR people doing this. Now suppose you have hundreds of people joining that particular day. Suppose you have a bot doing this. So the bot can read all your employee information. It can do the matching against your Aadhaar card or your PAN card, saying that okay, this is a genuine employee. It generates your ID card. It also assigns your desk. It assigns your timesheet tasks. Imagine how this is beneficial to any HR employee, right? And this is happening. So I have created multiple bots for multiple organizations where this HR onboarding is a huge hit across organizations, right? And HR people are really blessing the RPA technology for taking up their these mundane repetitive tasks. Then customer service. I think this is a classic example which I have been telling you: front office, back office, wherever you need all these tasks to be delegated to a bot, right? So with that, let's move beyond RPA. Why do we need to be stuck with RPA, and which situations, right? We need RPA. As I started my discussion, we spent saying that RPA is useful for rule-based, structured tasks, right? Where we are defining these tasks, we are defining the process, and then we are deploying these bots. But consider you are deploying this bot, and tomorrow something changes, right? Tomorrow some policies changes in organization. Tomorrow you need to run the bot in a different way. What happens is this bot does not have any inbuilt intelligence, so it would fail, or you have to rebuild this bot. So that is where there is a need to move beyond RPA or add something to RPA which would enable the situation, right? So that's where we'll talk about AI, which is, or the intelligence which is added to RPA, where you can augment RPA with intelligence so that it not only caters to the routine structured tasks, but it does something more cognitive or intelligence. Then instead of, also RPA does automation in low hanging fruits, right? Like where we have routine tasks, these are automated, but there's a need to discover some sophisticated tasks and also move beyond that, where you can induce some self learning. So consider you have a 10-step bot, and this bot is running continuously on 10 hundreds of invoices, right? And tomorrow suppose a new type of invoice comes, which is not their part of this structure, it would fail. So how do you induce a self learning, right? You have a step where you say that now this bot has to learn, saying that tomorrow if suppose the invoice is coming in a different fashion, it can learn automatically, and whenever such invoices, new invoices come, it would run for that invoices as well, right? So that is called self learning. And we are also complementing this RPA with more and more cognitive and AI, right? So that is what is the need to move beyond RPA, and that is where we talk about hyper automation, where we are bringing everything together, right? We are creating an intelligent automation or highly digitized automation platform. Now the rise of hyper automation. So we'll talk about how these technologies, like we had content management tools, we had business process automation, we had RPA, we had something called workflows, or typical custom MADP applications, right? So all these are coming together, and they are building this hyper automation platform, which is around more than 16 billion in uh, in revenue, which is considered, right, combining all these technologies. And it has a growth rate of around more than 15% year on year, and it can generate revenues, right? That is the market shift we are talking about. And how this market shift is happening is what we'll talk. So what is the landscape? So as I told, we started with business process automation, we started with robotic process automation, we did with the rule based task automation with RPA, moving towards intelligent automation, where we are bringing in all these technologies, right? We are inducing RPA and BPM with machine learning, with deep learning, with NLP and chatbots, computer vision. So all these are coming together through to create this hyper automation landscape, right? Where the bot not only performs its task, Also, it has an intelligence built into it where it can perform sophisticated tasks, right? So we'll see something like, suppose you want to have a chatbot, you're talking to a chatbot which takes your requests, and also it so there are different types of chatbots, right? Right now we are building which is voice enabled, like Alexa or your Google Assistant, right? Which is having an inherent, it's a bot, but it is having its own intelligence and it is having skills. So every day, if you look into Amazon, Alexa, the skills are built by people like us, right? Suppose there is a need where you feel that, okay, my daughter wants to learn some rhymes, or you have a need where you want to look into some Christmas website where you want to have gifts automatically packed for you, right? So all these are new skills based on the needs which are getting generated, and these skills are can be built easily by you and me in Amazon's AWS platform, and these are immediately pushed into production and they are available for you to consume, right? So this is how fast these skills are, or these automations are being built, and these are induced into these technologies. That's an example of classic chatbot or a voice bot. Then you have like NLP, where you have examples of sentiment analysis, right? Suppose you want to read multiple emails from the customer and you want to determine whether the customer is happy or sad, right? So consider, let's take an example. Suppose you are standing in a uh, yeah, so let's take as an employee, every day you swipe your card, right? And you log in through your gate and you swipe your card, and there's a machine which takes you in, and then you log in, enter your desk. So consider you have an NLP technology where, or a computer vision technology together, where the camera or the webcam can see your face, your expression, and then determine whether you are really happy or you are sad or frustrated that day. So suppose Mondays, right? Every Monday, all of us are frustrated, and there are Monday morning blues, and we don't want to go to office. And luckily, in this situation, we are staying home. But when all this gets over, we have to go to office, right? We have to be in traffic for 2.5 hours, and then travel and go to the office and then work. So that's when the every Monday morning, if you have this NLP and computer vision technology, where the camera can see your expressions and determine that you are happy or sad. So maybe 95% of the employees will be unhappy on Monday, right? But 5% employees are happy. Suppose there are highly motivated employees who like to work every day, even on Mondays. So for all these people, what happens is the company gives some bonus, or company gives some goodies, or company sends some appreciation, saying that these guys are going beyond and they are happy, right? Or even on Mondays, and they are doing their jobs. So consider this is happening. So I have built some bots or some technologies which have taken this NLP and computer vision together to build these highly automated solutions which can read the expression of a face and then analyze the data from your text and then generate the output, right? So that is happening even in banks. I have deployed various technologies where suppose you are standing in a queue, right? And you are waiting long time to reach out to the bank's teller, and the camera can see your expression, and it says that you are frustrated. What happens is when you reach to the teller already knows that you are frustrated, so the teller gives you a offer saying that, okay, I'm giving this credit card free, or I'm giving you this something which is a goodie. So it will try to make you happy, right? Even though it has analyzed your bank, your past actions, still it is able to react immediately, right? Saying that you are a happy or unhappy customer. So this is happening right now, right? And you are in this era where all these are reality, and you will be building such products. Now let's look at the again key enablers. As I was talking, with hyper automation is your machine learning. You have workflows. You have native integrations. You want to integrate with any applications using RPA, process mining, AI skills, and analytics. Right. So all these are coming together to build your hyper automation platform. So hyper automation. Remember, this is not a single technology. This is not AI. This is not machine learning. This is not RPA. This is not process mining or analytics, but everything. When you take bits and pieces from each one, then that is what creates an hyper automation, and we'll see multiple examples of that. So consider this as an ecosystem, right? Where you as a user, you log in to your bank, and you log in through your tablets, or you log into your, suppose, let's take a claims processing application. For example, somebody has met with an accident, right? So I have built some application where uh, you log into your phone and you launch that app, and that app takes down, and you click the photos of the accident, and also you enter some text saying that I'm really frustrated and this is my insurance details. You scan it, you send your driver's license. So that is where your first level is your user interaction, right? It can be through your smartphone, through your tablet, through your web browser. You log into your claims application. Now once you enter your claims application, you are also assisted by few other automation tasks. Like for example, you can talk to a chatbot saying that I met with an accident, can you send an ambulance? Or you can say that, can you route me to an agent? That can be a first interaction. Or you can do a you when you enter your details, Aadhaar card or your driver's license, using OCR, which is your optical character recognition, or using your text analytics in NLP, it can process your documents instantaneously, right? It can process your license and it can say that I am Raghav Naipati, and suppose I met with an accident, and these are my insurance documents, and I immediately match it, right? And also I can do a image scan. So right now your KYC or your immediate um, scanning is happening using your face recognition, right? So I just scan my face using my phone and I click, and then I take my real-time photo of the accident site, and then I send it. This is happening real time, right? All these applications or automations are helping you to take to the further level. Then you have your bots. What these bots would do is, it will take the request, it will say that, okay, this is a claims application, this is my car number, this is my policy number, and this is my photo, this is my driver's license. What it would do is, it will run through the set of steps, and it would send it to an backend process, where the human sitting in the back office, he or she would immediately review these documents, and then instantaneously it would be processed by comparing my data against the legacy application. Suppose my it will compare my data in the CRM or in the database, saying that, okay, my date of birth is so and so, and it will compare instantaneously. It will generate the response. It will go back to the human in loop. The human would say, okay, immediately I'll approve my claim. It goes back to the RPA. The bot would again trigger the chatbot would immediately respond to you on the cell phone, right? So consider, this is what is happening instantaneously. Right now you don't have to wait, right? KYC is happening instantaneously. You log into Paytm. Paytm has created a video KYC app where instantaneously you just log in, show your face, and your KYC is done. It compares against multiple systems using this hyper automation technology. Right? It takes your input through your omni-channel platform. It does your AI automation, where it does a lot of analysis, image processing, OCR. It sends to a bot. The bot would process, send it to a human. The applications are again matched against the backend application, and the response is sent immediately. So this is what is your hyper automation ecosystem, right? This is how we are working in this highly intelligent automation platform. Now let's look at some of the use cases of hyper automation. Okay, so what in hyper automation platform we are doing is, the first is, we are building an intelligent or a cognitive automation platform, right? Where earlier we had the RPA, which was doing the hand job, right? Like, it is like you are creating or typing in something, keystrokes, mouse. So all these are highly monotonous tasks. The bot was typing that information for you, or it was doing a mouse action for you, copying, pasting for you. That is more of combining or doing the job using your hands. But now we are moving from hands to the brain, right? Where you not only apply your hands, but also you bundle with your brain, so that you can do some advanced processing, right? For example, you are sending email. Email, you want to classify whether it's a ham or spam, right? Your typical RPA bot cannot do that. It can process emails, right? But it cannot classify. What you are doing is, with RPA, you are adding a AI skill, which is a sentiment analysis skill, right? RPA plus sentiment analysis NLP, which will do this ham spam. Then you are again adding an RPA with sentiment analysis, where you want to determine a positive versus negative review. So consider, as you all know, that I think most of you visit IMDb, right? Most of the day, where you want to review any new movies. Nowadays we are at home, so we review, we we watch a lot of movies or web series. So before watching, earlier I didn't have anything, right? So I use now, before watching, I go to IMDb and first I check my reviews. And if the review is more than 7.5, then only I go and watch the movie or web series, because I don't want to waste my time. Similarly, when I log into Amazon or Flipkart, first I review whether it's a positive or negative, then only I buy the product. That is what is happening in the sentiment analysis. So you review the opinion of the product in that website, and then only you take a decision. And this is happening with RPA plus AI skill, right? Then language detection. So right now, with all these translate services which are there from Amazon or from Google or from Microsoft, so your language translation has become very easy, right? So right now, suppose you travel to any country, you don't need a translator with you. You just have your Google Translate, and you just enter the text. It will translate for you, and you can navigate to even China, Japan, or in Barcelona, any country, right? You are not restricted, because you don't need any person to assist you. You have your translator with you. Or you are working with an application where application needs to be converted to your native language. So you have all these beautiful, even with Microsoft, it can translate to 60 plus languages, right? And then you can have these applications work on the 60 plus languages translated. This is again a classic example of your hyper automation, where you're combining RPA with your language translation tools. Okay. Now this is where you are saying that your hand work which was done with RPA, we are moving to your head work, which is cognitive, and you are combining these two, right? So together, you are able to handle multiple use cases. So earlier you saw a few use cases of RPA, but now you are moving beyond that, and you are able to do all these use cases seamlessly. For example, you can do your end-to-end customer processing. You can do a credit card application starting from the time you apply a credit card, which can be inputted by a bot, till the time the results are sent to you. Right? Earlier, a credit card application used to take 3 to 5 weeks. Now it can be done within few minutes, right? As you can see, suppose you want to apply for that Amazon ICICI Bank credit card, the results are immediately done, because it has an AI algorithm which looks up to your CIBIL score, and then immediately processes that application with your KYC, and then sends your virtual credit card through which you can buy. So all these companies are playing these tricks, where in these festive seasons, right, they want you to buy more, spend more, and if you don't want to spend from a pocket, they're saying that you apply for Flipkart Axis Bank credit card or Amazon ICICI Bank credit card, and immediately you get a result, and you can do that, right? All these are happening because of such technologies. Then another example which I told you is about onboarding, which is again employee onboarding and tax filing. So I recently created a bot which takes care of income tax filing. So consider a period of June, July, right, where everyone wants to file income tax. Even I think this year it is the end of the year, right, where we want to file the taxes. So consider the job of a person. We have many organizations where people manually file the taxes, right? So they log into the income tax irs.com, they enter the name, login ID, the captcha, and they enter your details and file the taxes. So consider how simple it will be if you delegate to a bot. So I have created a bot which can log in to the IRS website, and also it can enter the captcha, and it can enter your details, and it can submit the tax for you. And with AI, we can augment this to build more intelligence whenever something changes. Suppose your document changes, suppose your address changes. So all this can be augmented with an AI, so that you don't have to intervene manually. Only when there is an exception or an approval needed, then only the human is involved. Okay. So all these are classic examples of your hyper automation. Now let's look at some real examples. So this I have built for a bank contact center, where where you want to have this end-to-end address change application, right? For example, you call to an IVR and say that you want to change your address. So you recently moved from Mumbai to Hyderabad, you want to change the address. So earlier it was very tedious, right? As you know, 10 years back or 5 years back, you have to go to icicibank.com or hdfcbank.com, fill up that tedious file, tedious form where you have a lot of field you don't understand, and then you put your signatures, and then you go and submit that form, and after 15 days again somebody would either call you, or you have to manually go and then again ask for that, right? Right now it's not that. So with this application which I have built, this is happening seamlessly within few minutes, right? So what this application does is, you log into that bank's website, and then the chatbot would take in a request. So you type in, hey, Eva, I want to change my address. It will ask you, hey Raghav, good morning, and then what is your current address, and what is the address you want to change, right? It will just take your details. It will ask you to give you your PAN card or Aadhaar card or a driver's license, and with computer vision or image processing, it would directly take your photo there itself and then match it against your PAN card, and it would send that information, right? So this is initial ingestion which is happening, and it will take that information, it will give it to a business process automation tool. So what this automation tool would do is, it would trigger a bot, and this bot would extract the data using NLP or using OCR, right? It would take in the driver's license or Aadhaar, and it would try to extract Raghav Napathy, date of birth, address, match it against your database or your CRM application using your NLP or your OCR technology. It will extract, and then it would match it. So once it is matched, this technology would predict the result, right? So bot would predict the result whether it is matched or unmatched. Suppose it is unmatched, it would again send it back to the chatbot saying that need more information. Now the chatbot would take in more information, again send it to the bot. The bot would again do this matching logic and send a notification approved. Now this human in loop. So you, as you can see, most of the participants are the bots. There's only one human who is only there for the final approval, right? Or an underwriter or a claims adjuster or a final approver in case of a bank. This person would just review it finally. He or she would take in all the details which the bot has created, and then the person would approve the details, the application saying that okay, address change is approved, and the notification sent to the user as an email through the bot, and the chatbot says that congratulations, your address has been changed. Please log into the website after 2 minutes, right? So now you can see this entire processing is happening with what? With human plus robot fusion, right? You have one or two humans in the loop, but most of this is done by the bot, chatbot, your RPA bot, your AI bot, and everything is done run by the bots. So this is your real time hyper automation platform where all these applications which I have built, they are running in multiple banks and multiple insurance companies, right? Another applications which we have built is again video KYC application where you take in the consent through your phone, right? The person would log in, the agent would talk to you. It can be a virtual agent, it can be a human agent, and then the agent would scan your picture, and which image object detection, image analysis, we are able to that with computer vision, right? We are able to diagnose various features of your face. So it would match your eyebrows, it would even match your the shape of your nose, the eyes, everything is possible, right? All these dimensions are able, and the computer vision technology is able to match with the object detection and analysis, and then it would give you the percentage of ratio saying that okay, it has matched maybe 95%. Then the result screen, you would see that these are the profile details which for that candidate, and after the face recognition is successful, and it would, the NLP would take in the documents, it would do the text analysis and the matching. Both these technologies say yes, yes, 95% it is matched. Then you are happy, immediately your KYC is done, you submit. So now you can log into Paytm or any application which is, or any website with the with where the KYC is done instantaneously, right? So this is again a real life application which we have built. Now you have understood the hyper automation technology, right? Now let's see what are the I think I'll just spend 3 more minutes. So the future of jobs is very promising, right? So all the jobs wherever you need creativity, judgment, emotional or social, right? All these jobs are something which where AI cannot take of these jobs still, right? Because still we are in the artificial narrow intelligence space. So there are two types of AI. One is artificial narrow and artificial general, AGI and ANI. So we are still in the ANI phase where even the AI machine is able to do specific tasks. So for example, you have built a AI machine to play chess or Go, it will just do that. It cannot play Chinese checkers for you, or it cannot play some other game for you, right? So we are still in the ANI, and we are moving towards AGI. Again, I'll talk more about in my articles, difference between ANI and AGI. You can view in my blogs, where it says that AGI is something like more humanly, right? All these creativity and other jobs can also be taken up by the human, but that is still a future ahead, right? We are still there. 10 to 20 years down the line, it might happen, but don't worry now. So all these jobs which involves this creativity, judgment, emotional, it cannot be taken away. But what we are saying here is automation is augmentation. Nobody will take up your job, right? Taking away your job. It is just helping you to do your job more efficiently and more time consuming, right? And for all of you, right, you will see or you will join such jobs such as, so you have to upskill. That is my mantra. And even if you log into my LinkedIn, I always say that keep learning, right? That is my mantra, where you have to upskill or you die, right? In this situation, companies who have not upskilled or who have not adopted these technologies, they are almost dead, right? Because they cannot scale up. So consider the companies like Asian Paints and others who are in the paint industry. They are pure brick and mortar industry, right? They never thought of digitization because nobody will buy a paint online. Now they are also thinking online, because with COVID, nobody is visiting their store to buy a paint, right? For example. So you have to upskill or you are dead. And all these skills which I told you right now, RPA, AI, and hyper automation, are there for you to augment your technologies, where you can become a digital product manager, where you build such products. Like I have built such products, you can become a product manager, digital project product manager, where you can build such products. You can become a RPA product manager, where you can build some RPA products, or RPA analyst, where you analyze the RPA processes and do some automation. AI/ML manager or a product manager, where you can apply machine learning or AI technologies. Data scientist, right, where you analyze or read data, make some predictions, and generate some outcome. Or machine learning engineer, where you build those AI/ML algorithms. So I don't want to go into deep, but there are supervised, unsupervised algorithms which you can build, and then you can upskill yourself. So these are the kind of jobs which you should look, right? So once you complete these RPA technology or AI technology courses, you should look for such jobs. And so because these jobs are hot in market and people are less in this market, so once you learn and upskill yourself, go for some certifications, trainings, upskill yourself, and apply for such jobs, so that you are relevant in the market, right? So no longer pure Java coder or a .NET coder is relevant. I'm not saying that their job is being taken away, but if you say that I'm a .NET developer with an RPA skill, then you are in more demand rather than only a .NET or Java developer, right? So that is how the job market is shifting, and I thought this is very important for you, whoever is attending this session, so that you understand where the job market is shifting and what is relevant for you, right? So with that, I think let's again close the session with a humor, where a bot is asking a help for a human, where it's saying to click on "I'm not a robot" box, right? So this is again going to be a reality in 10 years down the line. Okay. And this is also going to be a reality where the bot is competing with you for jobs, and then it is asking for a references, right? I'm unemployed in LinkedIn. Maybe you would see unemployed photo with a bot, and it is asking for a job. So with that, let's end this session. And I hope you enjoyed this session, and you gained some knowledge of what is happening in the market, how are the industries and companies changing, and what are the types of jobs which are in demand, and what are the technologies. And please upskill yourself, learn, keep learning, and then apply for such jobs or such skill sets. And all the best for your future. Thank you. With that, I think we can
Thanks a
take up
lot,
any
sir.
questions.
Yes, sir, we do have some questions from our students. There's actually some issue with the chat. We have collected the questions from our students. So,
Okay.
how much of domain knowledge do we require to be there in hyper automation? Like, what percentage of domain knowledge is necessary?
So domain knowledge, I would say less than 20%, right? You don't need to be a domain expert. You just understand the domain. So suppose you're building an automation for banking or insurance, then understand how or what is the process. So that's where I say process owner is not a person who is building this automation, right? Process owner is somebody who is a domain expert. He needs to understand the domain more than 90%. But you as an RPA hyper automation specialist, you need to understand where to apply these technologies into this domain, right? So 10 to 20%, suppose you understand that, okay, this is how the claims process works, this is how the loan process works, then you say that out of these 10 steps, I can automate these steps with my technology or my skill set, right? So that is what is needed. So don't worry, for you, it is less than 20%. Just understand the process, that is what is important.
So, in case of unattended, when there are failures, do we have automation to that or
Yes.
failure?
Yes, yes. So I think your voice was breaking, but what I could understand is on unattended bots, you want to understand what happens if a fail, what is the failover mechanism, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in unattended bots, which we have built, there are failover mechanisms. What happens is, as I told, there is something called a bot central, right, or a bot orchestrator, which is like your central processing unit, which is managing all these bots. So there is a interaction between this bot central and the unattended bots. So whenever an unattended bot fails, it there is a message or a notification sent to this bot central saying that this bot has failed and is not running. So immediately the bot central will make sure that there is another bot which is being shipped or which is being triggered in that machine, which can take over that bot. So there are tools which are built this bot failover mechanism with sophisticated notification mechanisms, and immediately scale up these bots so that there is no downtime in this application. So that's why I say bots can work for 24 by 7 by 365 without any interruptions. I think that
Yes, sir.
I answered that question.
Yes, sir, perfectly. So, in the field of hyper automation, we need to have the knowledge of RPA and ML together, or we have different engineers working on a tech stack,
Yeah,
like
so
as
that's a
of
very
now
good
in
question.
industry.
Yes, that's a very good question. So as a technology, you need to understand both, right? But as a specialist, you can be either one, or you can be both. So I'll give an example, right? So in my organization, we started with RPA, we started with BPM, and then now we are bringing in AI, and then we have all these hyper automation, intelligent automation space, which is emerging now. So we have separate people for RPA, we have separate people for ML and AI, and they both work in different the same Scrum team to build that hyper automation product, right? So, but what I encourage to my team is don't be restricted to one technology. You have to be cross skilled, right? As an RPA, you need to understand ML. As an ML, you need to understand RPA. So that tomorrow you need to perform in a job where you need both the skills that can be amalgamated together, right, to perform. So I would suggest start with any one technology first, but upskill or cross skill yourself.
Yes, sir. Also, there has been been test automations, like test automation drivers these days. So, can
Correct.
hyper automation also take over that field, the test automation?
Yeah, so test automation is again a tricky field. So I think most of you know Selenium, right? Selenium is a test automation tool which started alongside with RPA. So what happened is, I'll give an example. Like when I was starting, when I was in early in my careers, we were introduced to both the tools like test automation and RPA. So it's again a product management kind of a trick, right? What happens is you start with a specific domain. So test automation started with only automation scripts for test. Now somebody thought that, okay, why I need to only do the test automation? I want to do the entire end-to-end automation. That is when RPA started. Now test automation think is a subset of RPA, right? And definitely with these tools, RPA, AI, ML, this will no longer be relevant. So I'm predicting around next 5 to 6 years down the line, all these AI, ML, and RPA tools will take over test automation tools, right? Because all these things which were done with test automation can be done by RPA, and more can be done with AI. Okay, so right now it is still the players are there, but they are getting kicked out by the RPA and the AI, ML tools.
Also, sir, we have a last question about security issues. Like RPA can also be a like there can be securities issues with RPA, right? The bots can be a point of losing data. So, does hyper automation also look into that issues?
Yes, so that's again very good relevant question. So as I was told, right, I worked in banking industry for many number of years, and I come from this regulatory industry, right? So before doing anything, we are like 10 times cautious, like whether, as you rightly asked, whether there will be some breach of data, whether there will be something which is malicious, or the bot would take and do something vicious, right? So we are talking now about something called responsible AI and automation, right? So we lay down certain principles which say that each and every data which is exposed to this bot or AI algorithm needs to be vetted by the human first, right? And then the human would pick up a set of data which can be sent. So suppose there is a customer data, but you don't want to send the entire customer data, right? You want to send few elements of the customer data to the bot so that it can take an automation. That is one kind of security step which you can take. There are other steps like what are the steps in automation the bot can do versus what the human can do. So as I kept saying, there are some steps like exception handling approvals where the human can be induced in the bot automation, right? So all these manual repetitive can be done by the bot, but wherever you need some human in loop, you can do that with this hyper automation. So there are some 6 to 7 principles. Maybe you can, I will put it in LinkedIn as well. You can refer that, and then that would help you to understand how you build hyper automation with responsibly, right?
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot. That's all we had.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
in the chat, there was one career-oriented question. What Ranjit was asking. So he's like he started with IntelliBot as a studying. Now he's going with advanced course of RPA with us, and also he's going to appear for master's exam for RPA. So how that certificate is going to help him out in and what he can achieve from that certificate.
Yeah, that's a very good. And I keep saying, right, upskill and certify yourself. So that is relevant very much, right? So certification allows you or keeps you right apart from others. So there are many people who are learning by themselves, but when you add a certificate from a distinguished organization, definitely that would put you top in the queue, saying that okay, these are the people who really have learned, and also you are able to apply the technology to your job, right? So definitely, I would encourage you to go and do the certification, and then also I would encourage you to try some small proof of concepts or projects, right? When you're learning these tools, don't just do the exercises. Take up small use cases. I have told you a lot of use cases in this session. Take up the small use cases, try and create this so that you get a practical knowledge, right, rather than only get a theoretical knowledge. So certification plus real use case will help you and keep you on the top of the edge. I hope that answered his question, Ranjit's
Yes, sir.
question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was just going to for the another question. He's like he says he's having 4 years of experience in telecom. So he started doing RPA. So he's a fresher. He's a very fresher in the RPA as a field. So what he should do specifically? He's asking the same question, related question to this.
Okay. So is he the same person who is doing the certification or a different person?
Yes, sir. He's the same guy.
Okay. Okay. So as a fresher, see, yeah, the first step is you learn the tool and do the certification, which is you're doing logically. Take a few use cases, as I told, right? And all these use cases are available online. You don't have like you log into Kaggle, you log into GitHub, you'll get all these small use cases which you can try by yourself using any tool. I don't know which tool you are learning, but you can learn UiPath, Automation Anywhere, or even our tool which we have launched, Zenith, right? And then once you get the confidence in any of the projects, showcase your projects. So nowadays we see in social media generation, right, we are not restricted to like alone, right? you can put your project in Kaggle, you can put your project in GitHub, you can put your project in LinkedIn, and ask people to review your project, and also help you to give your feedback. So that is when you get the confidence that you are doing the right thing. Then you can take up the next step of applying for a job or whatever, right? But I would say follow these 3 steps, definitely you will be successful.
Definitely, sir. So here we'll end up the questions for from them, sir. So thank you, sir. Thank you for this amazing session, sir. So you the all the dots what were connected from starting from hyper automation to how it works with AI ML and how we should apply for jobs and all. It was amazing. And at the last, the sense of humor, it was amazing too.
Yeah,
So one of the best sessions what we have till now. So thank you for your
thank you,
time, sir. Thank you for that amazing session. It
thank you.
was very, very informative for each of us. Even we were very indulged with your talk. Like, okay, now these are the very important topics. What actually it is asked all the way in the current situations.
Yes,
So thank you for this
definitely.
session.
Thanks for your time and thanks for listening. I know it's a Sunday afternoon and boring to listen to a talk, but definitely it made your Sunday valuable, right?
Very,
So
very
thanks,
valuable, sir. Thank you for
and
this time, sir, on the
yeah,
Sunday.
any questions you can connect me on LinkedIn. I think you have my LinkedIn contacts.
Yes, sir.
So Raghav Naipati, you can just connect, and then any questions, career advice, definitely I'll be there to help you.
Definitely, sir. We have a community known as community.letsupdate.in. So
Mhm.
we'll update your LinkedIn profile over there also. And if you like, you can also come to our community and guide them towards your
Sure,
questions,
sure,
sir.
definitely. Please share
Thank
that
you.
link as well. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Definitely,
Yeah.
sir. Definitely. We'll be sharing you with that thing. So
Thank you.
okay, sir. We'll end up the sessions over here. So Shoaib,
Thanks.
you can
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Harsha.
thank
Thanks, Shoaib, and the team. Thank you.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Yes, Shoaib. We can go offline, sir.